Okay, so today I'm discussing how to bring back the off-track products or projects on track. I already introduced myself. I want to mention one thing. So my mantra that I applied in last, let's say, 6 months while fighting with this project was like owning all the failures and giving credit to all the successes to the team and appreciating them more often. I think it helped, and I will show how I did in different dimensions. Good. A little bit about Dunnhumby is basically, in short, a data science company. It has data science products and mostly in the retailers domain. Also has big, customer base. I think we are targeting for 2 billion users, like the end users. It's pretty huge, around 3,000 people. So it's pretty big data science. Okay, so I will explain a bit of situation, what happened and how we went through the journey. So the product, let's say in March 2020, it was 0.5. It is not important what the product does, but it is a web interface for the internal employees who book the ad inventories on behalf of the advertisers. And the advertisements will be shown on the retailer's website. So that's a short summary about the product. The process wise, we were using Kanban earlier, and then we moved to the 2 weeks sprint. People wise, we had around 20 people team, including engineering, product and design. So that was the situation. The challenges were the product was late by over 6 months. I think it was 8, but I was optimistic. And we were stuck on 0.5 version. 1.0 was supposed to be the MVP, and it was quite far. And because it failed multiple times on the release schedules, there was low trust from the stakeholders. The team had also relatively low confidence, and also the reputation wise, they were struggling. Obviously, the attrition was very high. Engineering manager also left, and the new engineering manager, that's me, moved into the team in March 2020. And while I was talking with the people, I was hearing like a product is unstable, the quality is low, there's bad design, maybe we should throw it away and build from the scratch, you know. And some phrases were very interesting, like these are usual ones, right, in the software, but some phrases was also like, I don't have enough challenges and I'm bored. And I was really shocked. Product is 6 months late and you are bored and you don't have enough challenge. What's going on? And also I got some suggestions like, don't trust this set of people, trust these set of people more, and that kind of stuff. Okay, so you can imagine, like, it's not only technology, it's not only product, it's not only people, it's multidimensional. I exactly approach it into three dimensions, people, process, and product. So the people wise, my mantra was be the coach, right? So you are not there to judge people, you are the coach. So all you have responsibility to navigate them through to the success, right? So I started listening, trust wise, even despite I got the advices that, okay, some people may not be trustworthy, but by default, my approach is to trust until and unless you see any evidence, right? Otherwise. And while talking with the people, because I also saw that it was also, the failure was also because of people dimension majorly, right? So you identify the motivation triggers onto the individuals, find their strengths, and find the leaders in different domains. So what I did, I started assigning based on their interest, where they are strong, assigning the responsibilities and declare them as a like go-to person. So they started having more ownership into that small area. Like they would also know other areas, but they would own more in some of the domains, right? Like release management, DevOps related stuff, a primary owner and a secondary owner, quality management, database related stuff, external dependencies stuff. So you have now multiple people who own different things, and that also improved a bit. Rewarding was quite important. So even because they were struggling for success, and they forgot the taste of success, so you have to find the reasons to appreciate and celebrate. One thing also I did was developing a bit of culture of learning. So you have like more tech talks, more mentorship. So the seniors are mentoring the relatively junior colleagues. When they were doing tech talks, it also builds like a give and take relationship and creates more bond within the people. Communication wise, you repeat and repeat the goals and the struggles that you are having pretty honestly, and you have open discussions about it, and people understand it more well, and you address the situations like somebody is saying I'm bored, because they are clearly not seeing the exact picture of what's going on, because probably they are shielded by some artificial cloud, and they are hidden somewhere, and they're thinking everything is going well, but on the top stakeholders are not happy. On the process side, I also noticed that especially in the agile and the ceremonies and the Scrum and Kanban, people get more tied with the processes. They take it literally, and they forget their end goal. They just bind with the process. Okay, we can't do that because the process doesn't allow, and they kind of forget about the end goal. So I started introducing the flexibility in the process so that you can adopt the surprises. And the processes I look personally is like a military practices, where you have all the drills and exercises in the nice and positive environment, and one adversary surprise, and all the processes start falling apart. So you be ready for breaking the rules and say, okay, in order to achieve the goal, what you do, you don't bind with the processes, and you focus on the goal. And that also helped basically keep delivering despite different challenges that you face on the way. Yeah, so you optimize, right? So you have to see all the areas where you create waste, where are the energies going on. You define the process and document it. Also define what is the role for individuals, right? As engineer manager, what is my role? What is product managers? What are engineers, QAs? Like, they understand their roles. We documented it, signed off with everybody that, okay, I agree that this is my role, and they understand it more. Take some risk as well. This is also important, that when things go wrong, that's where you are more needed for the team, and you should take some calculated risk and own the risk and say, okay, go ahead, I take the responsibility. Mostly people are very afraid, and if in the beginning I can share, like, it was 0.5, users were not using our product, but people were afraid making a release even to staging on Friday. And I asked why. But it's Friday, and if something goes wrong, so what? Because nobody is using it, and you have to give them assurance that nothing is going to fall if you do that. And we started doing it, and it improved bringing the product timeline on the track. Yes, on the failures, I think that should be the bold, because yeah, there will be failures and you have to own it. On the product side, that's the third pillar, release small, release often. So I think Hisam was saying that you should release multiple times a day. I think that requires a lot of test infrastructure, a lot of automation there. The product that we have is like, the test environment is different than the production environment, because the production environment talks to other external services like Google Ad Manager or these different ad servers, and it's pretty risky. You can lose quite a lot of money if you make any mistakes. So we decided that we do the testing, the regression on the test environment every 2 sprints, let's say 2 weeks, which is like every sprint, and then make the release. And what happened, like most of the time, is usual that, okay, everything is planned. Okay, we want to deliver this much, this sprint. Towards the end of the sprint, when you start regression testing, things falling apart, right? And you start discovering bugs. What used to happen is that, okay, there are bugs, we can't release. Okay, let's postpone the release to the next cycle. And that's how you build the pressure on the team, right? So you build the pressure, you lose the trust from the stakeholders, and the confidence goes down from the team. So there I made a change, that you build the features most of the time under the feature flag. You do the regression testing, and you see all, let's say 5 features we want to deliver. and one of them or two of them don't work, or they have some bugs, and you make a decision whether those bugs are acceptable or is fine, and you go ahead and release. If not, you simply switch off the feature and release the remaining. Don't block the release itself, and then you don't have a pressure to manage the whole release, but only the remaining one or two features, and that you can reiterate fast, fix those issues, release again. That was also quite, and I call it like MVF, like a minimum viable feature. So even if there is a bit of small bugs or small stuff in some feature, you still make the decision. But you need to understand, as a leader, you don't only depend on the product managers, for example, or the product owners. You have to also have a good understanding of the product to be able to take a call, right? So you need to be decisive there. I started myself as a playing QA for the team, so that I know the product very well. I think the technology was less important here. The product and processes and the people were more. And today, I think the status is that we are at 2.5.0. The users are using the product. We are getting very good feedback, and team has now gained back the confidence. We have received the appreciation from the users as well. These are the users not from outside. They are like 60 users from Dunnhumby, but they are more of the selling side. They're working on behalf of the advertisers.
So thank you so much, Shivendra. I think you kind of structured it nicely, right, where you say people and then process and then product, right? And in that particular order, because oftentimes we forget, right? Without the people, there is no process or product. And one of the things that I've learned over the journey of my career, there are a lot of cultural elements that also come into play when we deal with people. Because you mentioned a very interesting thing in the very beginning, where there are guys coming to you telling you about other guys do not trust them, right? That's typical politics in a company, right? And dealing with that is very important as a leader, because as the team grows, like, you would see more of this, right? Because everybody's got their best interests in place, and they often start to do things like that. And then the process, I think you also mentioned it very well, where I always find it difficult, where's the fine line between lightweight process to too much process? And it really starts to show when the company or the team starts to grow. Because in my opinion, when you're 5 people, it's an anarchy. You just do whatever it takes. It's always been the case for me, right? When you're a 2-people company, you're HR, you're finance, you're DevOps, infrastructure, you're doing everything. And then suddenly you realize you're at 25 people, and then you're at 100 people. It's like, hey, what happened, right? Like, suddenly I'm not doing things that I'm not used to do. And that was one of the questions that I have in your experience in this particular project, like, how much of the process played the role versus the people, like, culture-wise?
So as I said, that the trust was one of the most important one, as some people who like to talk and they did not find, let's say, the space, because I'm really focused on objectives. So when you talk to me about some problem, and I would start talking about the objective. Okay, so what is the task that we are working on? What is the task we are talking about? How is the impact, and so on? So people-wise, you solve this. I think people-wise, I would rate more people issues than the processes. Processes have also some contribution. So basically, people are afraid, and they are more tight and strict with the what agile or what Scrum actually suggests you, and they would say, there is a production bug, but we can't take because Scrum says you are locked for 2 weeks. But look, this is a critical bug on production. We can't wait for like this 2 weeks and then another 2 weeks, and we are like 4 weeks. We can't afford that. And then I made it flexible that you at least incorporate the critical issues. Maybe you can trade, right? So when you take the critical issue, maybe you can take out one thing that you committed, and which is maybe lower priority. And that actually worked quite well.
It's just quite interesting, because like This is one thing that I often see is this culture, this cargo cult culture idea of like going through agility in terms of like there is a process and we have to follow. And the whole idea behind agility is to adapt to your environment and to make something that works for you. And then you have this, yeah, we can't do this, what's needed because we have to follow some rules. And you think, yeah, then change the rules. That's the basic, like, that's like the ordinance rule over every other is like change the rules so that it works for you. But the main problem most of the time is that people don't understand why they're doing all these ceremonies and what they are for, like in terms of fostering communication or like showing some stuff and get some, like really like what they are for. And if they don't understand that, they're just like acting agility. And that's very often the case when you see projects going south, that like people are doing all the things and all the numbers and the story points, but in the end they're just playing kind of a role in a play while having real big problems in doing what they intended to do, because they're half of their time they're just like acting. And that's and that's something that a lot of companies haven't understood, is that this is not that the process is like a hard thing, and Scrum is a good idea to start from. But I always tell them, like, the last thing in Scrum is the retro, and the retro tells you what to change. And then it's no longer Scrum by the book. You change something, and then it's your process, and you have to adapt to what's your environment. And that's like what I see often as an interim CTO, and what team don't know, like basic 101, what is agility in terms of mindset instead of product. It's like really good what you did. Like, make this work for you.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, there you play a coach. So you also play a coach, and that's, I think I also had to go through some agile training myself to understand what's going on, and how we can make it work for ourselves. So you need to know actually a lot of things to be able to coach the team. That's also important.
And you have to be, in a way, not stick to the stuff that you usually like to do. If that's not working in that environment, then you have to find something else to do. So even if that's like the usual thing you like to do, this is like understanding what it's for, and then like stepping back from your personal preference and doing what helps you the most.
Yeah. My question is very simple. All what you described, I actually apply. I'm very happy. Team is happy. Let's say this is like this direction, right? I'm here, team here, and this works fine. And then I have this direction. I have some managers above me, right? And they are 50 plus, 60 plus. They are still working with one word, and it's called pressure. The only thing what they know is do everything for the team, in parallel. And if you fail and so on, so very, very old way of leadership. And I completely tried to block it. But what is the trick actually to deal with that?
Yeah, that's very, very, very good question. There is no good answer. You need to be smart. You are kind of a thick layer between these young people who are starving for the new things and the other people, especially in the big companies where this is the case, right? That there are 50 plus or even close to 60 some people in the leadership. And you need to basically sometimes, so if they say, okay, we need to know the predictability. Okay, how do you know the predictability? It comes back to the velocity question, right? And you give the number, and they just see it and do nothing, right? And if you know that they are not using it for real, you give the number, and you make sure that they are happy. But you need to, as a manager, I think it's really important that you know what they need, what are the stakeholders, like especially the users need, and you should focus more towards the users and do a little bit for them to stay happy. I think you have to also play a little bit, I would say, in those situations.
Sometimes we just do things that is right in the team. We know it. We have to do it.
Yeah.
Management don't understand it even, so we are just kind of being silent and say, okay, don't talk about it. In the Scrum review, don't say it even, but we did it, right? And everyone is happy, especially the customer.
As long as the customer is happy, we are getting the business, we are selling the product. I think everything else is like a smaller, I would say. So manage it.
Yeah.
So on the dealing with what's the right diplomatic term for that? Senior people. It's our job as leaders to find the right method, the right approach to educate them, over communicate it, and keep doing what we can and use data to support that, right? Because I mean, I work with a lot of peers that at the 50 and above age. It's very hard to teach an old dog a new trick.
I mean, sometimes it's possible to educate, and sometimes it's not, because the distance is quite high, quite large, right? Where it's coming from, where the requirements are coming from. So if you communicate with immediate leaders, and sometimes you don't reach that far to explain. Yeah, so sometimes it's difficult, but it's, yeah, you should definitely try.
So I just wanted to tell you, like, I liked your storytelling quite a lot, Shivendra. I mean, I could actually sitting here experience your journey as you went through it. The example you gave of one of your colleagues feeling fearful of even deploying on staging on a Friday or whatever, right? That's a classic sort of inhibition in a lot of team members who don't really open up. How do you deal with sort of trying to get the team to open up to you? I mean, retrospectives are a great way, but there are individuals who just don't open up in a group setup.
Yeah, that's true. It's hard, right? So you need to try out, you need to find the common grounds. So like, I have kids and some of my colleagues have kids. So then we started talking about kids, right? And family and whatever they like. Some people like games, and then you have to find some common grounds, common interests where you open up. Some people never open. So it is a challenge, but you need to try hard to establish a personal connection. And the personal connection, I would say, it comes with the honesty and openness. Like, you have to be open, right? And people figure out, right? So you can't sustain having like a fake face, right? You have to be open. You have to also remember that don't criticize in public. So when you have feedback, take them to the one-on-ones, talk openly, and explain why you think this will not help them in their professional career, in their growth, or for the product, or for the team. Wherever their behavior is impacting, you should explain. And the honesty, I think that you can sell it quite easily.
I think that what Shivendra just said, this is the most non-formalizable, non-structurable part of managers' work, because you can learn and teach how to structure work, how to monitor work, how to whatever, but you cannot teach building trust. You either are able to or you are unable. So this is like the magic part of managers' work, I would say.
To that point, right, I think there's one really, really awesome book that all of you should also read. It's called The 5 Dysfunctions of the Team. So Patrick Lencioni really goes deep into the science of building trust. So it's that vulnerability, that weaknesses that you're able to expose to each other, as Shivendra pointed out, right? You need to talk about things that are outside work to build trust. If you don't talk about things outside work, it's super to get that level of trust. Everything other than that is a fake trust. You say you trust each other, but you don't really trust each other.
But you must be very careful not to dig too deep, because it will then bring the contrary, like the resistance, like, hey, don't dig into my life.
Yeah, true. And one thing that I can add is that when you have discussions and they are watching you, right? So that your team is looking at you for consistency. So what you say, what are you doing now? What are you talking about again next time? And during the time span, how do you talk and behave? They are watching, right? And that will build the trust. So what you say, you do, you are consistent, you are predictable. So they know, if I do this, Shivendra is going to react like this. It's pretty straight. And if you are able to do that, I think then that's how is the trust, right? Then you know people. They know me, that how I'm going to react for some certain things.
But when they know how do you react, they can replace it with you with a script.
Yeah, mostly I mean that when you talk about their career, you worry about their career, their growth, and suddenly they come and say, I have a very interesting conference to go. Can I take 3 days off, right? And now this is the time to test, right? So you you prove what you meant, right, earlier.
I agree here.